A guest lounging by a brand new Las Vegas luxury pool suddenly smelled burning hair. The hotel above him had turned into a giant magnifying glass. How does an $8.5 billion resort accidentally build a beam that scorches its own guests? This is the story of the Vdara death ray and the same architect who did it all over again in London. On September 16, 2010, Chicago attorney Bill Pinta sat on a lounge chair at the newly opened Vdara pool deck. Without warning, an intense, localized heat struck his scalp. Within seconds, he smelled chemically singed hair. On the lounge chair beside him, a plastic newspaper bag began to warp, bubble, and melt directly onto the concrete surface. When Pintas reported the burns to hotel employees, their reaction was telling. They were not surprised. Staff had already developed an informal routine of quietly guiding guests away from that specific sector of the deck during late morning hours. Internally, employees had already labeled the moving band of extreme heat as the hot spot. But the public would soon choose a far more ominous label. Within weeks, national news broadcasts picked up the story, transforming what the resort treated as a minor operational quirk into an international scandal, forever branding the glass tower with its infamous nickname. The phenomenon was not born in an isolated roadside attraction. Vdara opened in December 2009 as a centerpiece of MGM's $8.5 billion city center project on the Las Vegas Strip. Rising 57 stories between the Bellagio and Aria, the high-rise offered a sleek, non-gaming hotel and condominium experience. The tower's design came from the drawing board of celebrated architect Rafael Viñoly, who styled the skyscraper with a striking crescent footprint. It was clad in thousands of panes of insulated, reflective glass. The curvature was mathematically calculated to expand interior floor plates and capture sweeping views of the valley. But the building's most defining characteristic, its smooth, inward curving concave facade, oriented directly toward the south, pointing its broad, mirror-like surface straight down at the outdoor pool deck below. At this scale, the tower's concave reflective surface behaves exactly like a massive parabolic mirror. When parallel rays of sunlight strike the curved south facade, they do not bounce away harmlessly. Instead, the building's geometry forces the incoming light to converge toward a tightly focused, high-energy region. The insulated, low-emissivity glass cladding Vdara was engineered to reflect roughly 70% of incoming solar radiation, a measure intended solely to protect the interior from the desert heat. But on the outside, that diverted energy became an intense solar beam. Because the Earth rotates, this focal zone did not remain static. It formed a moving band of extreme heat that drifted slowly across the pool deck as the sun tracked through the sky, transforming a luxury amenity into a shifting, unpredictable hot zone. In November 2008, more than a year before Vdara welcomed its first guest, solar glare specialist Nicholas E. Ashton of SSAF International identified the risk. Ashton sent a formal warning letter to the developers, proposing a full optical analysis and a specialized high-absorption window film. The proposal was declined due to budget constraints. Instead, developers attempted a less costly alternative. MGM Mirage hired facade consultants Loisos and Uba Lochde to study the curvature and oversee a preemptive fix. Before the grand opening, workers applied a thin, solar control film to the 3,000 glass panes facing the south deck. This film was engineered to reduce the solar energy transmitting through the glass, shielding the building's interior. But it did little to alter the exterior geometry. The concave curvature remained, still capable of gathering and focusing the desert sun. The preemptive film managed to lower the intensity of the reflected light, but it could not eliminate the physical concentration. The hazard was already locked into the tower's structure before the doors ever opened. Following the public exposure in late 2010, MGM Resorts faced a stark reality. The building's geometry could not be changed. Instead of a structural cure, hotel operations turned to containment. Workers applied a second, thicker layer of high-absorption film to the 3,000 south-facing glass panels, attempting to scatter more of the reflected energy. On the pool deck below, management deployed a fleet of oversized umbrellas to physically intercept the descending solar rays. But the physical barrier was only half the strategy. MGM instituted daily operational protocols. Staff received formal briefings to track the sun's path, actively warning guests to relocate during the high-risk window between late morning and early afternoon, when the focus zone swept across the loungers. These measures transformed the hazard from an engineering crisis into a daily shift management routine. The effort was only a partial success. While peak intensity dropped, the hotspot was never fully erased. Even today, localized temperatures on the deck can spike 20 degrees above ambient, a silent reminder of a permanent structural focal point. In 2013, a newly completed 37-story office tower opened at 20 Fenchurch Street in the City of London. Quickly nicknamed the Walkie Talkie for its top-heavy profile, the skyscraper featured a prominent concave south-facing glass facade. That autumn, the building's smooth glass curve began focusing a concentrated solar beam directly onto East Cheap Street. The optical principle was identical to the phenomenon in Las Vegas, but this time the focal zone struck a busy public thoroughfare. Pavement temperatures spiked past 100 degrees Celsius. A parked Jaguar XJ suffered melted body panels, a warped badge, and a liquefied wing mirror, while nearby shopfronts reported blistered paint and scorched signs. When investigators traced the origin of the design, they found a familiar signature. The tower was designed by Rafael Viñoly, the same architect behind Vdara. The London incidents proved that the Las Vegas hotspot was not an isolated environmental fluke, but a repeatable product of a specific architectural geometry. In the wake of the London incident, Rafael Viñoly publicly addressed the pattern. He admitted his team anticipated the solar reflection but claimed they miscalculated the sun's path during design. The error forced expensive retrofits at both locations. While Vdara relied on films and umbrellas, the London Tower required a permanent multi-million-dollar installation of aluminum bronze soleil louvres to break up the light. Today, both towers serve as cautionary tales, appearing side by side in architecture textbooks as classic case studies in solar convergence. Most engineering disasters are easy to diagnose because they leave a trail of physical ruin. A bridge collapses, a foundation cracks, or a column begins to sink. Vdara did not crack, sink, sag, or collapse. Every structural element functioned exactly as its blueprints demanded. The real failure lived in the gap between design intent and basic solar understanding. It remains an unsettling paradox in modern architecture. A building that is structurally flawless, performing precisely as drawn on paper, while actively producing a dangerous solar hotspot on the pool deck. Curved reflective architecture remains highly popular in modern luxury hotels and premium office towers worldwide. These towering structures show that a building can be celebrated as an aesthetic masterpiece while simultaneously functioning as a severe physical hazard. As cities continue to grow denser and developers erect more concave glass facades, an unresolved question hangs over the modern skyline. No one knows how many other curved glass towers are actively focusing concentrated beams of solar radiation onto public streets, hotel pools, and residential terraces right now, waiting for the perfect seasonal alignment to strike. When pristine design overrides human safety, luxury becomes a hazard. A hotel that scorches its own guests is bizarre, but Detroit is about to spend $1.6 billion tearing down its most famous skyscraper. Watch the Renaissance Center investigation next. Subscribe for more design investigations.